Hi, I'm Sena. I'm a PhD student at Northumbria School of Design in the UK. Our paper, How Design Researchers Interpret Probes, Understanding the Critical Intentions of a Designerly Approach to Research, presents direct accounts of how and why probes are used in practice. For the past 2 decades, probes have been widely interpreted and become something of an umbrella term in HCI, where design has become somewhat out of focus. So we were interested in historicizing probes as a critique of method to reframe the concerns around their methodization and legitimacy as a method. In order to put the focus back onto design with probes, we interviewed 12 design researchers who have published on their specific use of probes to have a direct account of these under-articulated issues and intentions. Thematic analysis of our data yielded 4 themes. Probes as fuzzy, strange yet legitimizing, probes as amplifications of practice and material questions, probes as manifestations of care for others, probes as subverting and facilitating small politics. I will briefly present each one. While some interpretations were explicitly called probes, some were named differently. The scientific connotation of the word was valued as a shortcut to communicate and legitimize design-led research practices to non-design audiences, but it was also found to bring some challenges in particularly sensitive contexts. As such, the semantics of the word reflected tensions between design and research. An important factor in interpreting the fuzzy concept of probes was related to how researchers came into contact with probes. It was indeed possible to trace the disciplinary influences and authorship in how researchers then created and framed them as part of their own research. The reflective practice of making the often bespoke probe artifacts was seen to be an exploratory and problematizing process, as a way of synthesizing or working through some assumptions about the context of inquiry. While the kind of obtuse, slightly complicated nature of probes could be challenging for the research participants, P3 noted that the magic happens when the object itself asks the question. Probes were also seen as a useful tool to ensure participants would engage more deeply and avoid quite generic answers. Regardless of their specific approach, probes were seen as a way of expressing design intent and professionalism, the willingness and effort to give something of your own, or like giving a gift to someone. P5 noted that their participants felt it was necessary to reciprocate that care back. In contrast, P1 observed that caring too much about the artifacts could create barriers in between with the participants. Finally, there was an emphasis on future-oriented change and intervention in probes, as opposed to the hegemonic notion of research studying the world as it is. We found that probes facilitated discussions around future and alternative possibilities, allowing people to talk about small politics, but in a safe way. At the same time, our participants also discussed the politics of research. While probes demonstrated a willingness to make a longer-term commitment for change, there were concerns around ownership and dissemination of probes data. Based on these findings, our work makes a number of contributions. As an ambiguous concept that blurs the boundaries of traditional conventions, we refrain from demarcating what probes are. Instead, we historicize the concept of probes as a generative metaphor for critique of method in order to allow room for more interpretations of probes in the future, rather than attempts to formalize, generalize, or police probes. We suggest sharing how probes are conceptually framed in individual projects as part of the research frameworks and timelines they're used. It is particularly important within the multi-epistemologies of HCI in order to understand how they are used to generate knowledge. We draw further attention to the dangers of citing probes as a self-referential proxy to legitimize a method in interdisciplinary knowledge production, as this has an impact on the currency of the word and concept. Finally, because of the humanizing qualities and the exploratory nature of design-led research practices, we believe that probes would benefit from much more experiential and reflexive accounts than the pragmatic ones that put more emphasis on their outcomes. For more details, please refer to the full paper. Thank you.